Hello, I'm Nicolette Pomba-Van editor of ESI Africa magazine, coming to you from the African Utility Week studio. Today with me I have Sicelo, who is the Managing Director of City Power in Johannesburg. Welcome, Sicelo.
Thank you for inviting us.
Last night, City Power won a very prestigious award here at African Utility Week. What does that award mean for the utility, being the power utility of the year in Africa, for yourself and for your team?
I'm sure you can see I'm already smiling. I think we're really humbled by this noble gesture from the industry captains. I'm sure you saw that we're really competing against the best in the continent, and we managed that to scoop this particular award, and we're really excited. I was actually talking to the shareholder representative last night to inform them about this accolade, and they were very humbled as well to say that indeed as City Power we are in the right direction, and we've been now notifying the board as well about obviously us winning this award. And I must say that again, the same accolades to say that we're in the right direction, and we hope that this will assist us as an organization to be able to do even better, I think, going forward, to continue to compete amongst the best, but also at the same time continue to learn as well, within the South African continent as to how best can we run such a big utility. So I think for us, it really means a lot. It's a nice point of reflection, and at the same time making sure that we are in the right direction, and it's a confirmation as we get feedback from the industry aspect.
And I think one of the things that you're doing right is looking at your customer base and how your customer base is changing. We've seen a lot of rooftop PV coming on board, and a lot of utilities might see this as a threat, but is it perhaps an opportunity?
No, certainly, I think for us we see it as an opportunity. Yesterday afternoon I actually delivered a paper in one of the sessions specifically talking about the company of the future. How should utilities look like into the future? And part of the discussion was obviously around these disruptive factors that are coming through, like your solar PV, for instance, your wind, or your renewable, probably, and distributed generation, for instance, and also looking at the way in which customers now start to interact with some of the utilities. They are no more just consumers, but they also now starting to produce or generate some of the electricity. So our interaction with them should obviously change. So certainly we don't see PV as a threat, but we see it as an opportunity. We need to make sure that as utilities, we start sort of like structuring ourselves to make sure that we can be on the driver's seat of this particular opportunity rather than to see it as a threat. So I think for me, that's basically the message that we've been sending. And I must say that the talk was well received, in such a way that they've actually asked me to be able to chair the last session, I think today, and trying to put a point across around making sure that we embrace some of these technologies that talks to the distributed generation, because generation is no longer going to be from the top down. But what's going to happen is we're going to start interacting with the customers. They're going to fit into the grid. They're going to start having arrangements amongst themselves and saying that I've got a PV, you've got a shortage of electricity, let me assist you. So we need to be agile enough to cater for some of those things, but continue to teach our customers that there's still a need for grid services. So it's no longer about kilowatt hours that we're selling to the customers, but it's about grid services. And therefore, let's start coming up with some of the other revenue streams. For instance, your wheeling charges as an example, but also start looking at the storage as well, as to say how best can we play into the storage space as a utility so that we ensure the continuity of supply into the future. And I think that's basically what we're looking at.
Yeah. But that dynamic space is definitely changing.
It is.
But one of the things that stays the same is cable theft. It is a problem that is ongoing. What do you advise around managing cable theft?
Look, it's been a huge problem. I must say though, as a utility, we've made huge successes. It's been reported widely in the media that in some of the cases we've cracked down very complex syndicates. In some of the cases, these syndicates include our own employees, for instance. So some of them are behind bars as we speak. In some of the cases, we're actually going through, court cases. They are before courts. I must say, I think last week we announced that we had about 851 cases that are currently before courts, and of which 90% of those relates to cable theft. And I must say that having reported those numbers, we've had about 300 successful convictions in that particular area. And really the formula is simple. It cannot be just one approach in dealing with cable theft, posting cards, and making sure that you steer the thieves away. It must be a multi-pronged approach where we're looking at technology interventions, like for instance trying to migrate from copper to aluminium. So, and that's what we're doing. We're actually changing all the copper overhead conductors to ABC in most of the suburbs in Johannesburg, and part of the strategy is to deal with the issue of cable theft, for instance. But also over and above that, we've got certain technologies, vibration sensors, things that we bury on the ground, obviously putting in some of the tunnel areas. We've got CCTV cameras, etc. So those are some of the technologies that are assisting us as well to be proactive in dealing with this particular scourge. But at the same time, we need to also respond from the intelligence point of view. So what we're doing is that we're also deploying some of the intelligence, working with law enforcement agencies to infiltrate some of these syndicates. And we've got our networks, and that was actually, that's what has yielded to some of the results that we're seeing around the convictions, and also education as well around the court system, because for them they just saw cable theft as a petty crime, but it's not. And we've actually lobbied extensively as part of the AMEU, as I'm the president of the AMEU. We actually managed to get the Interministerial Committee to sit and influence some of the legislation, and we've seen obviously the move from government side towards giving harsher sentences when it comes to cable theft. So I think there's been huge success, but there's still a lot of work that needs to be done. I must actually accept to that.
By changing that legislation, you have actually taken a big step forward in terms of managing that cable theft. And as you mentioned, innovative solutions need to be looked at.
Yes.
And that business as usual is not the way to go anymore.
Certainly
so
it's not.
Talking about innovative solutions, metering is one of the ways to keep your revenue stream as active and alive as possible.
Yep.
What are the solutions that you're looking at there in terms of prepaid, smart paid, around metering?
We've taken the lead when it comes to really metering, and I think we're proud as an organization. Although we've paid some of the school fees, I guess it's part of being in the forefront of some of these technologies. We made a conscious decision about 3-4 years ago that we'll go smart metering, full smart metering, meaning that we'll obviously have the metering infrastructure that can be able to either be run as prepaid and as postpaid within 1 meter. We'll be able to update everything over air, in terms of the firmware upgrades, for instance. So we have been rolling out that particular system. Currently, we're seeing at about over 120,000 penetration of smart meters within the customer base in Johannesburg, and we're still counting because the project is still continuing. I think what we're now seeing, obviously our intention was to first start dealing with the issues of billing, making sure that we can be able to account properly from the kilowatt hours that we put across the customer. They are measured properly, and then we take that, process it through the billing system. So at least we've managed to achieve that. We're currently just on smart meters in terms of the read rate, sitting at about 91% read rate. So that's actually good. The 9% we're obviously resolving and making sure that over time we'll eventually get to about 98%. But I think 91% read rate is actually very, very good, and meaning that there are actually 91% bills that are cleaner going out to the customers. And there might be queries here and there, but they are part of the 9%. I think that's basically the first start. But obviously it's broader than just billing. It talks to how we're going to run the organization going forward. For us to accommodate the PVs that you spoke about and be able to interact with our customers, let them feed into the grid, we need net metering, for instance. So therefore we've got now the infrastructure from the metering point of view that can deal with the issues of net metering, for instance. So that's part of that. But it goes beyond that. If we talk about electric vehicles coming in, etc., if we've got about flexible loads that we need to start managing as a utility going forward, we need proper metering infrastructure, because at the end of the day, if, for instance, we go renewable, and we know that in South Africa, or South African context, or especially in Johannesburg, we've got about 56 days of overcast days in a year. So in those days, if there's no sun, you need to be able to manage your load. So it's either then reduce the demand, so through the smart metering, you're able to achieve some of those things. So for us, the metering technology that we've chosen is not really just about metering the kilowatts, but it's about making sure that we change the way we manage the business going forward, so that we actually make sure that we start embracing new technologies, and our infrastructure is agile enough to be able to deal with some of these disruptive factors. So it's broader than that. It's just more than just metering, but it's about how business will be run into the future.
And managing this very complex universe within a utility space, and being the leader behind that. Last year you won the African Power Utility Executive of the Year.
Yeah.
So what is your message to young professionals coming into the business?
No, those are the good old days. No, certainly I think really my message, I guess it should be simple for me to say they must work hard, etc., etc. But I would like to really encourage them through my story, my life story. I think probably that's the best way to send a message. You know, when I started, today I'm the CEO of a major utility in Johannesburg, and we know that Johannesburg is the hub when it comes to the economy of South Africa, and we're delivering energy, which is the pillar of that. But where did I start? I mean, I started from a very poor family. My mother is not educated. Neither my father is educated. My father was just a mere salesman, earning about 700 rand a month. But I managed to start going through my high school level because I was just dedicated. So what I'm trying to illustrate to the young professionals as a start is that you don't have to be rich to be dedicated and to succeed. But if you're rich, it's even better because it gives you a good head start. So, but I'm saying you don't have to think that because I don't have money, therefore I cannot start. So I managed to go through. When I started at my tertiary level, I stayed in a hostel because I actually couldn't afford to stay in the residence. So I stayed in a men's hostel at Tehe Setumlazi. I mean, it was difficult in those days with all the violence in Natal, etc. But I was determined. So again, one lesson there, I say to young professionals, they must be determined. If whatever that they want, they will be able to get, but they must push no matter what, against all odds, and that's basically what I did. But there has to be someone that believes in you. You can work very, very hard, but if there's no one that believes in you, then you can obviously not be able to succeed. So they must then be able to interact with those people that can believe in them. In my case, it was Bernard Libertin that came into Mangosuthu University of Technology and said that that guy was the best performer. He actually gave me a bursary into ESCOM. And that's how basically the breakthrough came. Therefore, I didn't have to worry about the money for the university, etc. But someone had to believe in me. So again, to the young professionals there, is to say that they must work hard. Someone will see them and be able to believe in them and give them that particular breakthrough. And obviously, the list goes on, even at work. I mean, when I started, people will say, I mean, how can you become a CEO? You're very young. It doesn't make sense. But I continued to deliver the results up until, again, the chairperson of the board, previously Katie Simelane, and as well as the executive mayor of Johannesburg and the city manager of Johannesburg, saw an opportunity and said, this guy has got talent. And therefore, let's give him this particular opportunity to be able to run this big organization. And I'm sure it wasn't easy for them to make that type of decision. So all I'm saying is that you need to make sure that you apply your mind, you apply yourself, and someone will be able to see you and give you that opportunity. And I think we also have a responsibility to be able to continuously scan for that talent, for those people, and then be able to actually bring them up so they can be able to shine. And it's all about that. And I guess leadership as well is all about that. It's not about me only shining, but about creating opportunities as well and a space for people to thrive and for them to become what they want. So I can talk up until the cows come home, but I really, really think that even once you're there, where I am, you need to be able to then continuously get executive coaching. So I've not sat down and actually relaxed. I continuously get executive coaching, either formally or informally, get mentorship, etc. So I say to young professionals, continuously update yourself, get the mentoring, making sure that you identify those mentors, whatever that interests you, just be passionate about it, and you should be able to succeed. So for me, I think that's really the recipe, and it's not a one-size-fits-all. That's why I thought, let me narrate the story in a very short space of time, and I'm sure there are key takeaways from there.
I think it's a very good story that can be applied in any circumstance.
That's it, yeah.
And congratulations again on winning the award last night for City Power.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you for watching. I'm Nicolette Pompa-van Zyl, editor of ESI Africa, coming to you from the African Utility Week studio.